About 7:35. We're sorry we're a little late. We were back in the caucus room and going over the agenda for this evening. At this time, I would ask that the clerk please call the roll.
Mr. Bilkey?
Here.
Ms. Brandt?
Here.
Mr. Molnar?
Here.
Ms. Tully?
Here.
Mr. Ventura?
Here.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to call on our city chaplain, Thomas O'Brien, to lead us in prayer, and then thereafter, pledge of allegiance.
With bowed heads, let us pray. Almighty God, Father of all mankind and Judge over all nations, we pray Thee to guide our work in this meeting. We pray for those who serve the people and guard the public welfare, that by Thy blessing they may be enabled to discharge their duties honestly and well. We pray for our leaders, that by Thy help they may strive earnestly for the spirit of democracy and preserve untarnished our loyalty to our country and to Thee. And O God of mercy, we ask Thy blessing and comfort for our neighbors who may be suffering from mental or physical illness. Cheer them and bring them Thy blessing for health and happiness. Amen.
Amen.
And now please face the flag and join me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Chaplain, thank you again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out on
Chilly out there.
You know you can always stay.
Happy birthday.
Okay. All right. Next is public comments, and I only have one, and that's Shirley. Oh, I'm sorry. I missed one thing. We have a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting. Seems my agenda doesn't have that on here. I don't know why.
It was at your place setting, sir.
It's
I'm
right
sorry?
there.
It was at the place setting in the caucus room.
This one here?
Yeah,
It doesn't have it on there.
second one down.
Second,
Yep.
I'm getting old. I can't
So
see.
moved.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any
Second.
questions?
We have another second.
Second.
thank
Okay,
you.
we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. The next item on the agenda is any public comments, and I see that Shirley wants to come up and speak to us. Yay.
Yay.
Shirley Koth, 902 Eileen Drive. Got a couple of questions. First of all, the $20.80 we pay annually. I know there were some changes were going to be made to what that goes for or what it's, and I expected to see something different, I think, on the form last time. But I was just curious, what does that $20.80 go to these days?
It's the Water M&E Fund, and that obviously is for water extensions and water improvements in our city,
And hydrant flushing?
and hydrant flushing and what have you.
But didn't that change with something with Cleveland?
Well, the city of Cleveland is still maintaining, or we have turned over the maintenance of, or turned over the lines. They always have done that. What we did when we really turned it over to the city of Cleveland was, we were able then to get them for fully improved lines that are really bad, so that just what we talked about this evening, where they're going to go and do Robin and Shepherd Hills Boulevard, and it's about a $400,000 grant that they're giving us. But we still have the obligation. The fire department does annual flushings and cleaning the hydrants, and when a hydrant gets hit, we have to replace hydrants. We had a situation over on Highland Road where a big semi-truck came out, took out a hydrant, and we were then responsible for all the damages thereafter. We couldn't pin it on the truck that hit it, and the hydrant was absolutely gone. But anyhow, I think that those damages were probably up in the neighborhood of 20, 25, I don't even remember. It was a pretty extensive amount of damage, because they had to come out, they had to dig up the street, we had police there, we had fire there, we had service there. It was, so anyhow,
So
that's
that's
where our
going
dollars.
for that stuff? All right, because I remember at one point when there was something with Cleveland taking over something that we were doing, that there was going to be like, there was like $170-some thousand that was going to be redirected, and then there was going to be something about a change to the form indicating more of what it was really for. And I never saw anything like that, and so anyway.
Yeah, I don't think that we ever were going to give up the what we call the water M&E fund.
Yeah, you weren't going to give it up, but you were going to use it for something
for
else.
equipment.
Yeah, there was
Leaf-
an
that's
amendment
right.
to the ordinance.
That's right, there was an amendment to use a part of it for leafing equipment, that's right. Now
Right.
that I remember that, yeah.
But we were
Council
thinking
felt that
before-
at that time, we didn't need the extra money in the account because the Cleveland public was going to take care of the pipes. So we redirected that money to buy a leaving machine to help.
Right, I knew there was something in there that
But it didn't change the collecting of it.
because I thought the form was going to be changed, and when it wasn't last time I saw it, I wondered about
There
it.
was no change to the form or the collection. It was just at that point, council
You
felt
had
that
extra
that
money
money
that
could
could
be.
be
Right, it was extra
redirected.
money that we
Okay.
felt that we could use to help with the leaving process.
Okay. I've got a question, a while back, or not too long ago, we put in that thing about the trash cans. Are we actually enforcing any of that now? Or are we just kind of,
No, I believe that if Chris knows of a site, he's dropping off something, a friendly reminder to them that we have an ordinance in place that requires that the can be set back, so it's, it's a canned message that's given to the resident. It's not our desire to go out and cite everybody, but it's our desire to get compliance.
yeah, because that's, it's really hard, with a lot of people, and you take a look at the weather. Like if you take it off to the side of your garage and off to the side, and then it snows, how do you get to those?
I understand.
I don't know there's anybody to work with the residents on the size of those things.
Yes, here's part of the problem, and I think it was because it was negotiated this way, that each trash container would be a 95-gallon, both the recycle and the trash, each of them. So, like in the Villas of Taormina, I have suggested and recommended to those residents in there that when they call, they get a 65-gallon container, which is much smaller, and it's much more manageable, especially for seniors. And they have complied, and they in fact delivered, but that's private pickup over there. That's not paid for through the city.
Yeah.
So
What size are the green ones?
65s as
Those
well.
are the 65. That's
Well, those, actually, they come in the 95s initially.
yeah, but I know, because I had asked for a smaller one above the
Yep.
blue ones, but I never got it.
And
But,
as soon
I
as
mean-
I have the opportunity to sit down that's one of the meetings that I'm going to be having with Republic, and trying to sit down with them and see whether or not we can work out something where we can offer that, at least for our senior citizens, so that we can get the smaller containers. Obviously, there was a cost to them when they initially did this. The city did not negotiate for that event, and I think we should have.
Okay. I like the idea, I walked into the work session a little late, but that mini charter commission or something like that, I'm glad you're doing that. And so I think that's the way to go. Right now, I'm not convinced we need to go to 6. And I don't know how I feel. I'm not convinced we need to put you in the role of tiebreaker. All right, so so anyway, that's how I feel about it. Right now, I would vote against that.
Yeah.
All right, but but if it's going through something like what you said, then we'll just wait and see what it looks like. All right, then one other thing, I know, Nick, you had talked about the work session times, and I know that Vinnie had brought up wanting to have more extended work session times, and I think I liked what I saw in there tonight, with a lot of conversation going on and a lot of ideas, and I think that is my argument for longer work sessions, to promote dialogue, to promote more ideas coming out, not just going down the agenda. So, because that could have gone longer, and it should have gone longer. All right,
Absolutely. Me and Nick talked about it because we had the Gen meeting and we didn't know what time it was going to get done, but.
Right.
Just to go over what Vinnie said, I'm willing to come in at 6 to talk to any resident, and I think anybody who is on council right now, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think so.
I just met Russ Mazzola for the first time. We just got elected in Northfield Center.
Yeah.
And he's holding Saturday, office hours, and I think it's just great to be able to go one-on-one with any residents, so.
Well, that was one idea Vinnie had brought up, but I think that, and that's in addition to this. And I think if there's even only 2 items on the agenda, you guys have got to have more than that to talk about. Hopefully you would, have time to have some dialogue, some ideas back and forth, even if they aren't on the agenda, even if it's not coming up. You've got to have things that you want to talk to each other about, and you've all got to be together to do it. So I think if nothing else, that coming up and, gosh, have you thought about this? We talked about that, whatever. I just think that would be really helpful. So, okay, that's it.
Thank you, Shirley. Just, not to pat myself on the back, but back in the day when I was the president of council, I started the work sessions. There were no work sessions before that. And it was very productive, by the way. So it was a good way for council then to understand what was going on. And actually, I don't think we had them on the night of the meeting. We had them on the odd Thursdays, if you remember back.
I talked to another previous councilman years ago.
Yeah.
And he said it used to be alternate Thursdays.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So thank you, Shirley. We'll take your comments. The next item on the agenda would be pending legislation. The first one is ordinance number 110, 2017.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 110, 2017, first, third reading by title only, please.
An emergency ordinance amending sections 18201B, 18203, and 18204A of the codified ordinances of the City of Macedonia, Ohio, in order to increase the city's income tax rate by 1/4% starting July 1, 2018, and continuing thereafter, and submitting the same to the electors on May 8, 2018.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
Are you amending?
Yeah.
Do you want me to do the amendment? Okay. So I move to amend this ordinance by breaking down the percentage that is going to each department. 30% to the service department of the monies collected, 30% to the police department of the money collected, and 40% to the fire department of the monies collected.
Second.
Need a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions to the amendment? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried.
I'd make a motion that we pass and post according to law ordinance number 110, 2017, please.
As amended. As amended, Mrs. Tully.
As amended, sorry, thank you.
And who is the second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I think that if there's anyone that has any comment, I do have some comments, and I prefaced them in the back. And some of the people obviously heard those comments, but I'll just reiterate them again. It's been unfortunate that this city has, for years, robbed Peter to pay Paul's, never had enough money to maintain operational costs. And given the fact that the governor has stripped, for the last 6 years, $650,000 annually, we've lost the inheritance tax, we've lost the tangible tax. This administration has done everything in its power to bring costs down and trying to save money in the medical coverage, and we haven't given any raises out to any employees in the last 2 years. We're in negotiations right now in 5 contracts. We have operating costs and capital improvement costs that we can't even attain if we try to. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars in vehicles that sit outside. We can't even house them inside of a building. For the service department, the police department's vehicles have been sitting outside for years. We have a aerial truck that needs to be replaced. It's going to be about $1.1 million. We just have a lot of infrastructure needs. These dollars from the 1/4% will in fact provide those dollars for us. In addition to the fact we're willing, if you will, not to renew the 1 mil levy. And the 1 mil levy generates anywhere from $380,000 to $400,000 annually. And that costs a homeowner that has a $200,000 home $60 in real estate taxes annually. As you know, when we passed the 1/4% last year for the roads, we have kept our promise to maintaining and repaving our roads throughout the city. We did about $1 million some last year. This year we're going to be doing another 40+ roads in the city, or included in that 40+. We're going to have orange barrels everywhere, so the tax dollars in that 1/4% that was passed last year is being kept. And again, the residents were given 100% credit. So when it went to 2 1/4, residents were still paying 2% because they got a credit of 0.25. Most of the communities around us, in order to stay alive in this tough economic time, even though things look good out there, have raised theirs to 2.25%, to 2.5%, to 2.75%, to 3%. And this is because they really don't want to go after real estate taxes. In order for us to go after a real estate tax, we would have to present to the residents a 3.5 mil levy, which would cost somebody who has a $200,000 home about $200 a year, if my numbers are correct. So rather than presenting a real estate increase, this will be taking $60 off of a $200,000 home, and they will be paying 0.25 more across the board. But the majority of people in this community, I shouldn't say the majority, but there's a good percentage of our community that is not affected by it. Certainly the senior citizens, I'm affected by it. I'm going to pay a lot more money, and I'm recommending it because I know there's no other way out for this city. This city is in it's not in bad shape. We're running very thin, but for our future, we are going to continue to lose employees because the parity issue. This past year, I lost 3 employees, 2 to Beechwood and 1 to Ridgefield. Why? Because they could go there and get more money. Okay? Not that we're giving away the store here, but the issue is that when you train somebody and you have them in place, now you got to come back, you got to hire somebody in, you got to retrain them. It costs you a lot more money, especially when it's police and fire. And we've had that situation occur much in the fire department. We've lost a lot of guys. They get their job here full time, and then they leapfrog to another community. And every time that happens, it causes us grief because now we got to go through our civil service testing. We got to find somebody. We got to put them in place. We got to put them in training. So it's a cost that's ongoing. The hopes is that people will stay here, feel comfortable in our community, and continue to work for us. We don't offer that because we can't stay up with parity. So there's a number of reasons that this 0.25% is really important. And the residents of our community need to make that decision. It's not a decision this council needs to make. Certainly this council can recommend, but it's a decision that where do you want to see your community go into the future? Do you want to see us continue to rob from Peter to pay Paul? I didn't create this mess. Our governor has fattened his load at the state level, and we're paying for it at the local level. I mean, $650,000 for the last 6 years. Just think what I could do with that money during my time as a mayor for the last 2 going into 3 years. That's about almost, what, $2 million? What could I do with $2 more million in our coffers? I could do certainly a whole lot. But we just don't have those dollars, folks. We're very thin here in our operations. Our carryover is very thin. You know, you get a community like Beechwood who's got a $50 million carryover in a reserve fund, or if you go to the city of Solon, they got $25 million in their reserve funds. We don't have, but what?
1.5.
$1.5 million. That's not good. It's not healthy. It's not healthy at all. So this city needs help. I'm doing everything I can as the mayor to bring in economic development into this community. I've got a lot of industrial buildings infilled. We're filling up a lot of the commercial empty spaces in our community. We've got some new construction that's going to be coming in. But our city is at about 90%. What I mean by that, 90% developed. So what happens when you hit that 100% mark? When you can't grow anymore? When you have no ability to bring any more industry in? Can't create any more jobs in your community? What do? Who pays? This is what's plaguing Cuyahoga County in their 53 political subdivisions that they have. They need to start merging services. What has Macedonia done? They reached out to Sagamore and Northfield, and we've created a consolidated fire district. That's a good thing. We need to do that more with more things that we can possibly do in sharing services. But Macedonia needs to maintain itself into the future. So I just would urge all the residents, if this passes this evening, to support it and vote for it. It's going to be our lifeline. It's like throwing in a lifeline to somebody who's drowning. We haven't gone underwater yet, but we're going to drown if we don't get this passed. There's no other way about it. I'm not going to be here forever. And I can only take everybody, it's like the old saying, the cliche, I can bring a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I'm suggesting that to you. I need to take you to the water and make you drink. So with that, could we, is there any other comments?
Yeah, I have some comments. The mayor just gave you kind of broad strokes of why the city needs the money. I just wanted to get in more detail, and so I asked the department heads to kind of provide the residents and this council with what, more specifically, they thought that the money that they would get if this passed, what they could use for. And so, just to make it official, it went to 1.3 to 1.45 million dollars, so it's a little bit lower than we thought, but I conveyed it to all the department heads at one point. And so I just, John and Tim and John, if you guys can just, why don't we start with Mr. Nadavanje and with the service director.
With the pass-through levy, the revenue that would go into the service department, we'd have to keep a close eye on and spend it responsibly, first of all. It's not spending everything that comes to us, but we also want to save for future usages. But this allows us to have additional manpower, save toward a facility, one facility to store all of our equipment and vehicles in. Currently, right now, we have almost $900,000 worth of vehicles and equipment that past and future, both councils and administrations have been very supportive of this department and have allowed us to purchase. They sit outside because we are busting at the seams at 3 of our locations. We cannot fit anything more inside. Our mechanics have to move things out of bays to get equipment inside to work on it because we're trying to keep our what we can under cover. And this is going to allow us to rotate our vehicles. We just did a purchase of 4 pickup trucks. We still have 4 other pickup trucks that need to be purchased, but we can't buy these all at once because this is what happened to us in the mid-2000s, early 2000s. We did a mass purchase of pickup trucks, and then they all started to fail. And so what do? We had to start buying in increments, and this is what this will allow us to do. And it allows us to create a 5-year plan and follow it. It's constant money coming in every year. We can make steps to make improvements and keep things rolling in our department.
Thanks, John. And just one question to follow up. If you did have more manpower, how would that help the city of Macedonia? Like, what are some of the projects that you've put off because you haven't had enough time in the day to do it?
Well, everything gets put off in our department because of the lack of manpower. This would allow us to sustain constant services. Our ditching that we do, we're lucky if we get it out of a couple months a year. We could be doing this for almost 6 months. Stormwater projects we can stay on. We have sinkholes throughout the city that we can't even address because we don't have the guys to go to. So these are hit and miss jobs that we do. These are things that we can constantly be on all the time with the proper manpower. We could be doing road improvements. But even though we have a great road program going on, we're still going to have repairs and berm repairs to do. This is something dedicated crews can be on during the warm weathers to keep doing these projects and stay on them. Also with our plowing, we need more manpower with our plow trucks. I've said this before, we run 6 trucks, less than we did in the early 90s. We should be running a minimum of 8, and that's still stretching us to allow us to be on main roads and get into our developments quicker. It's taking us longer to do our routes because of the lane miles that we've gained. Our department has decreased and not increased with the size of the city as it's grown.
Thanks, John. I appreciate the candor. Does anyone else want to have any questions for John? So, Chief Black, you...
Our money would be used for an aerial tower. Our aerial tower is 27 years old. Its useful life was 20 years is what they're projected. It was built in 1990. So it's 1990 technology, 1990 safety devices on it. It is, as I said, 27. It's actually an antique. We can put vintage plates on it, antique plates. We've got to get that replaced. Now, the fire department's been asked to give up a property tax, which would then lower our property tax. I like that because people that are on fixed incomes that won't pay this 0.25%, like our seniors, their property tax will actually drop from this. And if they don't pay the 0.25% and they're retired, then they would see a decrease. and taxes that they actually have to pay, which I think is a good thing. We try to take care of our seniors, obviously, in the fire department, and we go out and provide a lot of services to our seniors through the EMS and fire end of it, and try to do everything we can, and I like that aspect of it, but it would be used for an aerial tower and probably some part-time firefighters.
I was just gonna say, what, I mean, through, by talking to you, what, maybe just as I already know the answer to this question, but what's the difference between the part-time pay with Macedonia and some of the other surrounding communities, and how is that hurting our fire department, or, you know, by not being able to maintain part-time?
Every department's struggling with part-time firefighters. The requirements through the state for paramedic and firefighting, the continuing education, the initial outlay for paramedic. When I went to paramedic school in '89, it was $750, and now it's about $4,000 or $5,000 to go. It's a large output of money to get certified, and departments are hiring full-time, and our parity is low. You know, compared to surrounding communities, we're paying our part-time firefighters around $17.50 an hour, and the surrounding communities are way above us, which makes it tough for us to get those employees. We don't want to lower our standards in the people that we get to provide service to our public. It's extremely important that our public has trust in what we do. So we can't lower our standards, but it's tougher and tougher for us to get part-time people to come in, especially with the stringent state requirements on continuing education. We're doing everything we can. We have been advertising and advertising in the paper to get part-time firefighters, and it's extremely limited. Everybody's struggling with that. So then it comes down to pay. Everybody around us is hiring part-time firefighters too, because they are cost-effective. You don't, you know, unless you need them on shift, you don't utilize them. So it's a very cost-effective. But we probably need to make it a better place to come here with a little bit better pay for them, and hopefully we'll get some more people for that. So.
All right, thanks, Chief. Is there
I want to add to that. Okay, exactly what Chief Black is saying is true. I work for the Village of Oakwood, 3.7 miles square, 3,700 people. We are paying our part-timers exactly what he's paying his, and we're not even half that size. They're not going out as often as our paramedics do. They're not handling the area that our paramedics are, and they're making just as much. They definitely need more incentive to come here and stay here.
I have a question. How has your budget been affected by the fire district? You know, there's scuttlebutt that people are saying, oh, Sagamore residents are paying to be part of the fire district. Why all of a sudden does Macedonia need more money for fire? I know the answer, but
Right.
I'd like to hear you.
Well, you know, when we went into the fire district, we used that money for manpower. Our calls went from about 1,600 here in Macedonia to about 3,700. We had over 3,600 between. So you're talking about 12 calls a day that we're running. What's good about it is we have the manpower for larger incidents. We had a bad crash today where 3 people were injured, and we utilized all 3 of our stations. We didn't have to call and rely on another community to come over and help us. That's where the strength comes in, where we have other stations. So we're able to call them in. We had multiple calls. We're having 3-4 calls at the same time, and we're able to handle those calls without calling in another community to come in and assist here, because those communities only have the manpower set for what their town calls for. And when we call them, now there's 0 people in that town. Well, we called them over because there's 0 people in our town. Now we have 2 towns that have nobody available in case there's a call. One thing in the fire department, we can't stack our calls. Nobody calls in and says, hey, Grandpa's having difficulty breathing, but you could show up in 2 hours. It's an emergency. They want us there now. So it's very hard, and we're able to do that with the 3 stations that we have. So that money was used for manpower. I mean, their equipment is still their equipment. Northfield Center is currently going to be purchasing a squad coming up and some new equipment, but they're buying that stuff. So our monies were used for manpower to staff their stations.
But it would still be on the City of Macedonia residents or income taxpayers to pay for in full for the new aerial truck, or is there, you know, is it budgetary that you know, we put everything together to save money and to save from having to purchase all this stuff. Would you say that it would be a little more equally distributed, or money from, that comes in from the fire district would go to pay for something as big
But
as
we
an
do
aerial
have,
tower?
we do have monies coming in from that,
Okay.
yes. I mean, there are monies, it wasn't 100% used for manpower. It
Okay.
was for equipment and stuff like that, so yes.
Right. And because Macedonia has always been one of the few, you've always maintained an aerial truck where Northfield and Sagamore didn't.
Right.
So your aerial truck has always been the one that's going out.
Absolutely, since 1990, we've never denied our aerial truck to
Right.
those areas. It's
So
always worked.
that's been a perk for the communities near us, and now, you know, it continues to be a perk.
At the time, it was mutual aid,
Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
So they were using our aerial tower regardless of whether we were
Right.
together.
And we were always the first responder at all the schools, whether they were in Macedonia, Sagamore, or Northfield.
Which is good if you have a multiple-story middle school to have that aerial truck.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I was
A-
stuck
a
on that
very
third
old
floor for
school,
3 years.
yes.
Yeah.
That is a very old school with 3 floors in it, yes.
Well, thank you very much.
Any other questions? Chief Coleman?
Some of the monies that for the police department would be used to hire an additional one officer to be in the bureau. We've had 2 officers in the detective bureau since the mid-'80s. We're obviously bigger now. We've put in the shopping center, the commons, and other ones around. So we could obviously use another detective. We have to come up to the new 911 standards, next-gen 911, so we'd use some of the money for that. We're kind of being pushed towards 800 megahertz radios, which some of the monies can be used for that. They're very expensive radios, so that's where most of the money would go.
Thank you, Chief. Is there any other questions, Paul?
Didn't you say something about, a canopy for
Canopy,
police cars?
Yeah, we want to shoot to put the
Yeah.
canopies over the cars so that in the winter, the cars are protected from the snow and they don't have to run 24/7. You know, because these cars, while they may, when we take them out of we retire them, they're at about 100,000 on the speedometer, but they're probably 200,000 on the engine running because they're running so much.
Is that the deal? You keep the police cars running just to keep this warm and snow off of them? And
There's several reasons. You have computers inside. If you turn the cars off, the batteries wear down, then the computer goes off.
Okay.
You know, in the summertime, we don't necessarily keep them running all the time. But in the wintertime, you want to keep that car warm. Like the guys will start the next shift's car before they're here, so it's ready to go in case something happens. So, you know, when you have cars parked like that, you brush the snow off and it piles up between the cars. It gets slippery, various things like that. So it's
it's very beneficial to have the canopy. Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to add to that, being in the same business. Number one, the new Ford Explorers that we get, you don't change the oil and service and maintain these vehicles based on the mileage. You're now basing your service on the hours. We have to have our vehicles serviced every 250 to 300 hours tops. The prerequisite has completely changed, okay? And I don't shut my cruiser off if I'm on a call, because if I have to go from one call to another, I don't have the time to de-ice it all over again. I don't have time to brush off the snow. If I'm out on something, no matter where it is, I have to leave that vehicle running, and I have to be ready to go again. I have to secure it, but I have to be ready to go to the next event.
I ask you off do you ever lock yourself out?
No, because I'm smart enough to make my own key.
But does that happen quite frequently?
It used to, but not anymore, because people have seen me come in the morning
No, not just you, but in general.
and unlock my car,
Gotcha.
okay, and get it started, and you go, you take a key home? And I say, no, I have one made.
Nice. Is there any other questions for any of these guys here? Thank you very much.
Okay. Hearing no other comments, then I would ask for a roll call, please.
Mr. Bilkey?
I just wanted to thank everybody who spoke about it. It's difficult to put this on there, but I keep a couple things in mind. One was, it's not me raising taxes. It's the voters, and the people who live here are going to have a decision to vote yes or no. So it's just by me voting yes tonight, putting it on the ballot doesn't mean it's going to pass. The second thing I thought about over this was when I was part of the Future Growth Committee, the one thing that we stressed, and we talked to the same people, was before we can move and grow a better future for the city, we have to maintain what we have. And I think the answers tonight basically said just that. And I know that it was kind of an unfair question. You're not going to say we're not going to do anything with the money, but I know a lot of you guys would like to save some of the money too. So we have, more of a chance to buy a truck or two at a time, or a police car at a time, or an ambulance, and not have to come directly out of the general fund and take that burden, or we don't have to lease it. We could actually purchase something. Because one of the things that I'm concerned about is the amount of things that we are putting down the road by leasing equipment rather than buying it. And I know Ms. Tully said that today at the work session. But with that said, I do think that the voters should get a chance to voice their opinion, and I'm hoping that they read and see what this is going to bring to their city and how it could possibly make the city better, and we can start looking forward to other projects that don't have, what. So, thank you for your time.
Where's your vote?
What's your vote?
Oh, yes.
Ms. Brandt?
I would just like to say with this issue, it's really tough being a freshman council member, just got off the campaign trail, and now all of a sudden we're asking people to raise taxes, especially after I was a part of the campaign with issue 3 to raise taxes. But, as a longtime resident, and I work here and I live here, I'm paying all these taxes, paying everything, so it affects me too. I feel that, city taxes are directly related to the people that are paying them. I mean, you pay your federal taxes, you pay your state taxes, you don't really know where that stuff goes. But city taxes, I mean, basically your service department is they're your landscapers, they're your road crew, they're part of your home and what makes your home great. And I definitely want to keep Macedonia great. I've done a lot of research into what the service department is all about, and I'm very proud of the service department and what they've done and what they're able to do. But it really is a joke what we've made them have to do. People people talk up service when they get something done, and they're the first people to be blamed when things aren't exactly as you want them to be. And if we want the service from the service department that we feel that we all deserve as residents, I think it's important to fund it, well funded. And you absolutely want well-funded fire and police departments too. I mean, that's your life. That is literally your life on the line. So, and I totally agree with Kevin that, this isn't us raising taxes, and I really want to talk to residents as much as possible between now and May 8th, if this does go on the ballot, about where this money's going to go and how it's going to benefit people. So I really hope that people get involved and ask questions and make their own decision as to whether they feel that this this raise is warranted. So I really hope to be in touch with everyone and answer questions and ask more questions myself. So I vote yes on this.
Mr. Molnar?
I think it's important to talk about what people see and hear and what we know. I mean, there's been some great points brought up by my fellow council people, but for 10 years of myself doing this, the most calls I get are about service. Why aren't my leaves picked up? Just had one today complaining about leaves and the branch and the snow's not melted and the salt you're using is not working. It's important to give them the tools they need to do those jobs. For years I've talked about the vehicles he's needed. We've had a vehicle that when you put it in park, started rolling down no matter what you did, even after it was fixed and correct. So we need to start funding the things that are needed to do the job so that we can accomplish those tasks. I think all the residents know and understand where our needs are because they're feeling it. They're seeing it every day. We still have leaves out. If we had more guys in that department, do I think we could accomplish those tasks? Absolutely. It's not a matter of us wanting more money to just spend it. It's a matter of giving the services that are wanted, because I keep hearing about them, and I'm sure other people keep hearing about them, so we want to start providing that. To go on the other side of things, the safety end of our community, I think we have great safety services, but we need to maintain those services. We need a ladder truck, $1.3 million. I've talked about it with Chief for how many years now? How many times have you told me about needing that ladder truck? At least the past 5 years? Chief Black thinks ahead, knows he needed it, knew the vehicle was getting bad, and knows that we need that vehicle to maintain our ISO rating. So it's something that we have to have. We want to keep people safe. The police, they are out there to keep us safe no matter what we do. We have a lot of things going on with our shopping center where, I'd like to see the police patrolling through there. I love to see the police patrolling through my neighborhood and taking care of things. So these are all the needs that we have and we want to have, and we're telling you that in order to fund these things and maintain them, we need you now. Another piece to that too, we talked about the carryover, the unencumbered carryover, which means the amount of money we carry over each year that is not allotted to go to something. Way back when, and again, I have to use my tenure here, I think we rolled over at the highest point, and Jan, maybe you can help me, was maybe $3 million. That has now been cut down to 1.5, which is a ton of money to you or I. But in terms of a city, we keep digging into that. A great example is the trucks that our service department needed. We could no longer maintain the vehicles that they had in the condition they were in and put our employees in those and feel safe about them. Police vehicles. We keep coming up with this problem where when they need those vehicles, we go, oh crap, how are we going to pay for all those cop cars? We don't have a way to do it. With what we're proposing today, we take that all out of the equation. We funded our roads. Now we want to fund our departments to say, we're going to have the ability to not come to you again for a very long time. And I'm going to even throw it out there, probably decades, before we're even have to come to a voter again and say, we need your help. This is the way to put a stop to it. I hate having to come back and ask for more money, but the more we look at our budget and where we're at, we're in trouble, guys. This is not a joke. This is not something where we're going, we just need some more cash so we can, spend it and have a big building for service to park trucks in. That's not the case. These are all things that we need. It's not a want anymore. We want to give the services. We want to maintain this community. So my vote's an absolute yes.
Ms. Tully?
I'm going to try and be real brief. I've been on the fence on this one. One, I think it's too soon. We just passed something. It took people time to realize what that money was going to be used for. We keep talking roads. We also forget that's supposed to be for water. We haven't tackled still a lot of water projects. The other thing is the tax credit. We keep saying, well, we'll get a tax credit. We haven't even gotten through the first year of doing the refund. So we're not sure how cumbersome or how easy that's going to be. I'll let you know because I'm going to be in the middle of that. We also have talked a lot about projects that will increase our debt. When you talk about our carryover and how it reduced, we had a lot of debt at that time. And we intentionally paid down the debt. That's why we started lowering our carryover, because we didn't want to just keep having debt like you do in your house. You don't want a lot of credit cards with $30,000, $40,000 on them, so you've got to pay attention. So I look at this, and everything we've talked about we need. I also think about the fact we didn't talk about this at all. It just suddenly appeared. And so tonight we finally had an opportunity to talk about what are you going to do with the money. I dispute the dollars of what I'm going to pay versus what I pay on my house tax, because when I look at mine, it doesn't really seem to equal out when I think of how it's going to go down. But I would like to see the commitment that we start doing some of the water projects out of that water and road fund that we have. But then I realize it's up to you to decide. And I give you the opportunity, if I put it on the ballot, to decide, is it too soon? Do I want to do this? And we need to guarantee, and that's not in here, we won't go after renewal of the real estate tax for the fire department. And I hate to tell you, decades, oh boy. And don't ever put that commitment out there that you'll never have to raise taxes for decades. Not in this day and age, when every time we turn around, we know we can have a bust tomorrow with the recession. And they keep talking about it. It's a scary thing, but it's truth every time you turn around. My vote is yes, only because it's up to you, the voters, to make your own decision. We have the need. You choose if you want to pay for it.
Mr. Ventura?
I will keep it even more brief. I will not repeat any of the things my fellow council people have said. They've been said enough, and it's all true. The only thing I will repeat is what Ms. Brandt said. I am also going to make myself available to talk about these subjects as in any others, my vote is yes.
Okay, the motion's carried, and thank you, council. And next item on the agenda is correspondence. Are there any correspondence?
Man, we have to go through all the ordinances. This was just the first
Yeah,
one.
where are the ordinances?
Boy, that was
And court,
You know what? I put myself in the work session where we went through every one of them, so my mind went back there. Oh, forgive me.
We were time traveling, were we
Oh,
not?
I was looking at the clock. Okay, next item on the agenda is ordinance number 1, 2018.
I move to offer ordinance number 1, 2018 for its first, second, and third reading by titles only.
it's already had a first.
We already had a second.
I'm sorry, just by second and third.
Second.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
An ordinance amending section 35117 and 35118 regarding emergency parking ban.
Okay, you further reading?
I move to adopt ordinance 1, 2018 and post the same according to law.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Are there any questions?
Have we finalized what we're gonna do about putting the signs back out there? I didn't see a sign anywhere as I drove around. You know how we talked about, we used to have signs out there, snow bad.
Yeah, you're
it's
required to have them
inches.
at the entry points. Have you checked that out, John, to see if
I
you
haven't driven around everywhere, but I mean, they used to be located on Crow Trail area, but I don't think they exist over there
Well,
any longer.
What we will do is, you're only required by law, as I understand, to have them at the entry points of your city. So we'll make sure that we have them at all our entry points.
Yeah,
Okay.
I drove Crow just to make sure,
Yeah.
and that's the one that has no parking
They
on
have-
either
yes, they
side,
have-
but
they
there
have
was no.
parking on the
yeah.
side, but.
My concern still is making sure that not everybody uses Nixle, not everybody uses Facebook, not everybody has a cell phone. They have flip phones. I don't know if you can get text on flip phones anymore.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure residents are aware.
All right, is there any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 2.
1 second. Can we, Josephine, are we possible to table all 3 or 4 of these at once, or do we have to do them
Yes.
individually?
I would do them individually.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask. Thank you.
So I moved to table ordinance number 2, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table ordinance 218. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
I moved to table ordinance number 3, 2018.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 4.
I moved to table ordinance number 4, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
And I moved to table ordinance number 5, 2018.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
Go ahead.
We don't have any more on the,
I
on
was
that one.
No,
going to ask,
nothing.
do I need to make a motion to form
No.
that committee at this?
No.
Well, that,
No.
That'll be through legislation
Okay.
currently.
but what I'm going to recommend, and it was Mrs. Tully who suggested it at the last meeting, I don't disagree with her. In fact, I think it's probably recommendable, is to have these charter changes looked at by a charter review commission. And so we will, at the next meeting, ask council to, once we get the legislation here, to recommend an individual to sit on that commission. My whole intent was, in bringing this forward, all these different issues here, is that I never want to see our city paralyzed as it was in the past 2 years before my administration. There was nothing but turmoil. The administrator couldn't administrate, and council was controlling the operations of the city to such a degree that it paralyzed the city. And never want to see that happen again. When I'm a citizen standing outside and having sat in the seat all these years, to see that, it just is, it's not something you want to have happen in your community. So with that, we'll move on. Next item is ordinance number 9.
I move to offer ordinance number 9, 2008 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
Motion is second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried.
All right, now let's see how well I do this. An ordinance confirming the appointment by the mayor of Jonathan DeRosier to the position of part-time corrections officer.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
I move to adopt ordinance 9, 2008, and post the same according to law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 10.
Is he here?
I offer ordinance 10, 2018 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with the Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council in order to accept the Energized Community Grants.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
I move that we pass and post according to law ordinance 10, 2018.
Is this the ordinance that we're going to put the lights in? for the
Lights in,
baseball
correct.
field? Thank you.
We have a motion, and do we have a second to that?
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? I just have one before I call roll call, just so that it's very, very clear. This is a grant that's coming from Northeast Ohio Public Energy Council for about $150,000, and we're earmarking it towards putting in light the ball fields up at Longwood Park, which have been long overdue. So it's not discretionary dollars. It's for energy costs. It has to be spent on energy costs. The lights are energy costs, putting in LED type of lighting. With that, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is ordinance number 11.
Mayor, I move to offer ordinance number 11, 2018 for its first reading by title only.
An ordinance amending section 138102 and section 138103 regarding satellite earth stations.
Next item on the agenda is resolution number 12.
I move to offer resolution number 12, 2018. For its first, second, and third reading for title only. Thanks, Jessica.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried.
A resolution confirming the mayor's appointment of Vinnie J. Ventura to serve as a member of the Board of Directors of the Northfield Center Township, Macedonia Joint Economic Development District.
Okay, you've heard the reading.
I move that we pass and post resolution number 12, 2018 to the same according to law.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Next item on the agenda
Congratulations, Vinnie.
is resolution number 13.
I offer resolution 13, 2018 for its first, second, and third reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried.
A resolution authorizing the city engineer to prepare plans, bids, and specifications, and further authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids to enter into contracts for various roadway improvement projects.
Okay, you've
Mr.
heard the
Mayor?
reading. I think we have to have an amendment here, do we?
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make an amendment to the attachment to change that Crow Drive will be all of Crow Drive to include Crow Trail and to add the top of Berkshire as an alternative.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Motion to adopt.
Before I make the motion to adopt, I want to be clear what the roads are, so I'm going to read them off quickly. Berkshire Drive, Brook Point, Cheyenne, Comanche, Crow, Firestone Lane, Ledge Road, Pepper's Market, the Sheffield Steel, Longbrook Drive, Longwood Drive, North Bedford Road, North Corporation to Ledge Road, Oakview Road, east of the creek, Robin Lane, Seminole, Shepherd Hills Boulevard, Shepherd Road, Sugarbush Park, Swallow Drive, Tanglewood Drive, Twinsburg Road, Valley View to East Corp, Twinsburg Road, West Corp to Valley View Road, Highland to State Route 82, Valley View Road, Summer to Preserve Lane, and Wren Drive. Mayor, I make a motion to pass and post according to law, Resolution 13, 2018.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions?
There's no question. Is this a comment? This is your tax dollars at work, right here.
That's a lot of roads.
Yep. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is resolution number 14.
Mayor, I move to offer Resolution 14, 2018 for its first, second, and third reading.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried.
A resolution authorizing directing the mayor, A resolution authorizing directing the city engineer to prepare plans, bids, and specifications, and further authorizing the mayor to advertise for bids to enter into the contracts for certain water main improvements along Shepherd Hills Boulevard and Robin Lane.
Okay, you've heard the reading?
Mayor, I move to adopt resolution number 14, 2018, and post the same according to law.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and I just want to make this also clear is that this is approximately a $400,000 grant that we will be getting from the City of Cleveland Water Department to replace these water lines on these two streets. And this was per an agreement that the city had entered into about a year and a half ago, I think it was. And this is actually the first time that we have sought to get a grant from them, and we're happy to be replacing water lines in these two subdivisions, or at least on these two streets, I should say. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item is a motion or other legislative action.
I'd like to make a motion authorizing the fire chief to accept on behalf of the City of Macedonia Fire Department a donation of $25 for use by the fire department from Dolores Batterton of Macedonia.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept a $25 contribution to the city fire department. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion's carried. Next item on the agenda is correspondence.
I have none, sir.
Okay, mayor's report, I think I have spoken about as much as I want to speak tonight on all the other issues, so I have none. Committee reports.
The JED Commission met this evening prior to this meeting and kind of went over the last year's numbers, and that's basically it. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about other than,
We did approve the motion for the cut in and cut out.
Yep.
thanks, I was gonna get there, but.
No, you
You're
said
just
there was
getting the
nothing else.
report.
I'm done, thank you.
You said there was nothing else.
Let me finish.
The Parks and Rec Committee will have its first meeting of the year, February 8th, is that? 7th, at 6 o'clock.
Okay, any other committee reports? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to department reports. John?
All right, thank you, Mayor. Touch base a little bit, we've talked about leaf collection and branch shipping being still out there. Currently, all three of our leaf machines are down. Two of them suffered impeller failures due to foreign debris being in leaf piles of our during collection, and we're trying to get those fixed. We had our other leaf machine out, and what had happened was the water that was sucking up actually froze up and glazed the clutch and burned it up, so we have to replace that as well. So we started branch chipping again. One crew going around. We did have a contractor out that finished up the first week of January, all of the main roads throughout the city, and that was all the money we had from him at the time. And we're probably going to be using him again here shortly because he did leave his equipment at our facility. So we do have some funds available with 2018 to continue using him throughout the city as long as weather permits. Talk a little bit about our snow plowing. We received a lot of calls from residents that my road's still snow covered, ice covered, especially during the event that we had on the 12th and 13th. We did go into almost a spot salting throughout the city because we were getting low. We had placed an order for delivery, and as well as every other community, we were only getting a couple truckloads at a time. Looking at the forecast, we had to reduce what we were putting down for salt. Also, what hurts us at this time during those events is when the temperatures drop below 20 degrees. One night was 6 degrees outside. Our road salt that we get does not work on the roads. All it does is just it refreezes whatever we put down, and it's basically wasting good money. And also, we're using rubber blades on our trucks because of our road conditions. This is not going to help peel any ice off of the roads, especially in cold events like that. As our roads get completed, we will be going back to steel blades on our roads, but this is what we have to bear with, and we've been dealing with for over 15 years that I know of, that we've had to use these type of cutting edges on our blades just because of the road, the conditions of the roads. And that's all I have.
Thank you, John. Joe?
Sure, thanks, Mayor. We will certainly add the amendments to the resolution and to the road program. Otherwise, between speaking about the road program and the water main improvements there in the work session, I have no further report.
Okay, thank you. Angela?
Happy to announce that the whirlpool at the Recreation Center is now back up and functioning. It has been down for a little while. We had to replace a boiler unit that was original to the building. So I'm happy to report that that was received and installed this week. I understand with the building being 18 years old, we constantly have maintenance issues and challenges. I think before that, we had to replace a steam generator for the steam room. So the steam room was down before the whirlpool was down. A lot of people get very frustrated. I can assure everybody we don't intentionally ever decide to delay repairs just to upset people. But it does provide a challenge sometimes to get some of that equipment in. Parts are not readily available for some of the older units. So we do the best we can as efficiently as we can to keep everybody happy. With that being said, we're well aware we need some equipment upgrades to our cardio and resistance equipment. Financially, I don't believe that's going to ever be possible to do all in one clean sweep. However, we are planning here in the very, very near future to replace all of the treadmills and spin bikes, and also do some upgrades to the weight room this year as well. So that is in the works. I'm happy to report. Quite a few people are surprised to learn that our fitness classes are included with our memberships and our monthly memberships and our daily passes now. So I just want to reiterate that. We have more than 50 fitness classes available per week, and we have even more being added to the schedule for the month of February. And also, I just want to announce the dates for this year's Fun Fest, so everyone can mark their calendars. It is June 7th through the 10th. So we are already in the planning stages for that event. And anyone wishing to help or volunteer or become involved personally or through their business or organization, please reach out to me. Thank you.
I have a question for Angela. Is there any way to recoup any of our money with either a trade-in or a selling of the equipment we're replacing?
It depends. Each company we get a quote from, it's a different answer. So some companies have quoted us a very little amount. A lot of our resistance equipment has zero trade-in value at this point with the age that it's at. Another company is also, they put out to several companies that buy equipment back, they put it out to bid. So some companies may say, if it's just 1 or 2 treadmills, it's not worth me sending a truck and going through the hassle. If it's 12 to 16 treadmills, then I may give you $500, $700, $800, depending on what it is, how much they feel it's worth. So there is no sticker price that, like a Kelly Blue Book that kind of would tell you exactly a price, but it is, there are companies that will bid on those, yes. And we've also considered putting some of those out for sale for people to also purchase locally, like residents and people who might be interested in some of those for their homes.
Thank you.
I won't let this time.
Rhonda.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to make one correction. Our cash balance at the end of the year for the general fund was 1.5 million. The unencumbered cash balance was 1.2. Just to make a correction.
So you furthered my point, thanks.
Yes, certainly.
Even less than we thought.
Our January read of receipts was $898,234 as compared to last year, this time $783,044. So we were up $115,191. So that's going in the right direction. But take into consideration, we did have last year the month of March where we were down 164,000. So it can always fluctuate. We will be working in February on getting our water M&E invoices out. Also wanted to let everybody know that the income tax application for the refund is up on our website. It's under the front page, but it's also under the finance department. If anybody has any questions, I do have some copies here with me if you'd like to see them. But if you have any questions or comments or anything, just let me know. Give me a call or email me. We did receive our first application yesterday, so that was fast. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Is there anywhere else people can get them? Can they pick them up at City
I do
Hall
have
or the
copies.
library?
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Can they come to the front desk here and get them?
in fact, somebody did come today and she printed them out for them.
Okay.
I will probably be putting copies. I noticed that when I printed it out, there was a few line items that were a different color, even though I'm not sure why, but I'm gonna look into it before I print the final ones.
Ask Patrick, he'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you think you'll have them at the library maybe too? I know you had talked about that. 'Cause
Anywhere
there's-
anybody tells me I should put them.
Okay. Hard copies are always
They
good.
do have the forms.
They are fillable. It's a PDF fillable form, so the more that are completed online and then either brought to us or mailed into us, the better. But
I'm not sure by putting it down to Northfield Center Library whether that,
Well, that's where they have, I mean, other tax forms.
Okay.
That's
Maybe
where.
at the post office.
Yeah,
I mean, post
something
office
like that.
would be
Post-
okay.
Historically, wherever you pick up, tax forms.
Libraries have tax forms.
Yeah.
Both
that's where-
Twinsburg and Northville have the various tax forms.
And we want people to know when they go pick up their tax forms.
Yeah.
to
it does
grab
say
one.
City of Macedonia, so.
Yeah. And well, if someone from Sagamore, turns it in, you just say, sorry, you don't get it.
Or maybe they'll make a contribution.
There is a place on the form that if you choose, if your amount is minimal and you choose to still fill out the application and donate the funds to the city, you can do that, and then that would qualify for a donation in that, specific year, and that would be your receipt.
Great. Okay, Tim?
I have no report, Mayor.
Okay, John?
No report, Mayor.
Okay, Mark?
No report, sir?
Okay. Any unfinished business?
Yes, briefly, Mr. Gelati, we talked last meeting about putting out letters for people talking about paving. Are we still in effect with that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
In addition to that, I didn't give credit, Mrs. Brandt came up with that, or Ms. Brandt came up with that idea, so I want to make sure I gave her credit for coming up with that thought,
I'm
so.
only gonna have so many great ideas, so.
Thank
I
you,
need to
Jessica.
keep credit for them. Thanks, Nick. And I know that, Nick's always on Facebook and online responding to people that have questions about the road stuff, because he is an expert when it comes to knowing how the road stuff is done. So I'm always, learning from him. So I think it's important that, everyone gets this, and, explanation of how the roads are done. So thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. All right, any other unfinished business? Any new business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion second to adjourn. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion's carried. I thank you all for being here this evening, and drive safely.